Good morning, and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck and Becky Peterson, the Beck & Beck team at Windermere Real Estate. Beck & Beck provide complete service for your real estate transaction and bring you guests who provide interesting information about products and services available in our community. And now, Missoula Real Estate Today on News Talk KGVO. Thank you so much for letting us be a part of your weekend. We love having you on Missoula Real Estate Today. I love having a great friend of the show. I haven't seen him in a little while, but Nate is back, and that's a good thing. Nate Nunnally, owner of Montana Pest Solutions. Welcome back to the show.
Always good to be back.
We're not bugging you too much, are we? I think you were on this winter or late winter, early spring.
Earlier this year, spring,
it's almost fall, so I didn't think I was, nagging you too much.
Not at all, but I'm always happy to be here. Love to share our knowledge with people.
Yeah, and just about any time, especially when we're close to a seasonal change, I think it's a great time to talk to you, Nate.
Yes, definitely.
What are some of the more common customer needs in Western Montana this time of year as we make our way out of a pretty dry summer?
Yeah, well, the amazing thing is as we all are getting ready to, batten down the hatches for winter, we're moving in and getting cozy back into our houses after, spending as much time as we could outdoors. So are the pests. So flies are trying to move in. We are kind of coming to the end of the annoying yellow jacket season because they're all over our barbecues and our food when we're trying to eat outside. But mice are pushing in, and we had a pretty mild winter last winter, and the meadow voles and the standard old house mouse are very prolific this year. So we're dealing with a lot of mice.
You mentioned the mild winter. Are there a number of indicators that you see early in a season that might suggest it's going to be a big year for this species or that species?
Well, definitely the mild winters can allow the insects and rodents alike to really proliferate, and we could see that coming on this spring. We started out way busier than what we expected to be. Summer brought on the spiders way sooner, way earlier, and of course a lot more spiders. And I think everything just took our mild winter to full task to proliferate. So it got kind of crazy. We had some cold spells, but if they're brief enough or we don't have enough snow cover, I think it allows things to really get pretty crazy.
How, since you brought them up, how did the Yellow Jackets do, or how are they doing? Did not spend very much time out on our little patio at all this year, so I didn't really much notice.
I spend a lot of time outside on my weekends as much as I can, and we like to barbecue and eat outside. And if you sit down to breakfast, lunch, or dinner, you're going to have a yellow jacket or two that's coming after you.
So business as usual.
Yeah, business as usual. Little advice there. You want to, if you're really worried about if you have a deck or a nice patio or something at your house, getting a treatment done early enough in the year before they have a chance to proliferate is really helpful.
Yeah.
Our recommendation for most people on wasp control is we want to do a spring treatment, and then we want to do a mid to late summer treatment to try to hold them back. But the other thing I'll tell you, and I've had pretty good success with it, not everybody's comfortable with it, but have a fly swatter with you when you get out your food, and if the wasps are bothering you, you keep swatting them down, it'll take care of it. I was at my grandson's birthday party, and I just knew. So I had that fly swatter there, and I stood by and guarded the food and just kept swatting them away. And it kept their numbers down from bothering us too bad. But then the other thing, just a real common deal, is food covers. They make little food tents or little screens that you can put over every dish. So the person lifts that off, serves themselves, and puts it back on. And that keeps the wasp off your food, and the flies, for that matter. So little things like that really make a difference.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck and Becky Peterson, the Beck & Beck team at Windermere Real Estate here on News Talk KGVO. And my guest, Nate Nunnally, owner of Montana Pest Solutions. How about your seasonal Western Montana pest calendar, Nate? I always like to ask you about that. How can that benefit your customers?
Well, knowing the timing of insects, and of course the major calendar that you consider is the low level and the high peak of pest issues. And the high peak, of course, is July, August, and the lowest level is going to be January, February. And but our treatment can coincide with those things. So we're trying to do early treatments for people. We want to get them started earlier in the spring, even when they a lot of times our customer will say, well, I'm not seeing anything right now. It's like, and we understand that, but if you don't want to see anything, let us get the treatment done. So that's important.
Yeah.
And we have different phases of different things. You'll see fly proliferation happen midsummer and get really high peak right now. This time of summer, they're trying to push in. Restaurants are fighting them off. The fairgrounds, you notice that the flies and the wasps are all over. So during fair season, so we always have that cycle coming into the fall. We're going to have mice. That's how we stay employed through the winter. Is we still deal with mice. We still deal with insects. That's always been an amazing thing to me as a Montanan in the pest control business. Is even in December and January, we can still have ants and flies and spiders and stuff. So we'll still take care of people with that. But we want to get ready and get geared up to keep mice out of your house, because if you don't do something before they get in, and they get in, now you've got the mouse problem in your house, and that makes it even more of a challenge to get them out.
That's a good lead in because I'm sure a lot of people naturally assume you're the spider, ant, roach, hornet eliminator guy, but what do you get a lot of calls? You mentioned mice, of course. Other calls that are bigger than just bugs.
Yeah, so we have an entire wildlife division, and we trap everything from raccoons to squirrels, skunks, marmots, and all the way down to, of course, meadow voles and pocket gophers, ground squirrels. So we take care of all of that. Birds and bats. I was explaining to you earlier that business has really been up in the air for us the last couple of weeks, because we're doing a lot of bird netting on large structures. We're doing roof repairs for people with metal roofs. Or any kind of roof for that matter, that are having bat intrusions or bird problems. So I've always done my best to try to keep a wildlife biologist on staff, and we have a young fella who is just doing really well for us. His name's Devin, and we have Greg, who has a year of experience already under his belt, and he ravenously likes to go after those ground critters. So I've got one guy that really works with kind of the higher up stuff like birds and bats, and one guy that does really well with the ground critters. So we're getting them at all angles.
That is a wildlife division. You know, you get two or more. You get to call it a division. What kind of challenges does that present for those guys?
Well, so working up in the air can be challenging. Poor Devin, yesterday we had him up on about a 50-foot long roof peak, and he basically had to straddle it like he was riding the house, like a saddle on a horse. And just getting down off the ladder after 3 hours, he was feeling it. So, and he's a young fella. I'll bet he's walking funny today. But we had to get up there and take off a metal ridge cap, because some of these old metal roofs that are 20 to 40 years old, they weren't installed with any kind of barrier to keep insects or bats or even sometimes squirrels and rodents from getting under the peaks of the roof. So we'll go up there and remove that peak and put a sealer that's under there to make sure that nothing can get back in.
Wow. Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck and Becky Peterson, the Beck and Beck team at Windermere Real Estate here on News Talk KGVO. With my guest, great friend of the show, Nate Nunnally, owner of Montana Pest Solution. I think you said, just before we went on, you said something about birds and netting. Any new stuff going on at Montana Pest Solutions?
Well, yeah, I'm kind of excited. We just secured our single largest ever bird netting job, and I haven't done the math, but it's got to be somewhere close to 100,000 square feet of bird net that's all 16 feet above ground. So we work off of personnel lifts, the little scissor lifts that take us up there, and you have to string up wire, and then you attach the net to it, and what you're doing is basically bird proofing this building. So the birds can't roost underneath the roof area. It's an open structure. It's for storage. And we just secure it so that what's being stored under it doesn't get pooped on by the birds. And the customers that are storing under there are very happy to have this solution taking care of that problem.
Yeah. Were you getting a lot of demand for that, or you just figured, hey, if we have it, they will.
No, there's just a demand for it. And, Montana, we're kind of out here. There's just not that many people, and there's not that many people that are into bird netting. We work with one particular company that has trained us and certified us in applying their system. So we're very good at it. And after this job, we'll be really good, really very good at it. But yeah, there's 5 of us that are all trained and certified by them that do this work. So
yeah, I should have you. You mentioned your wildlife division.
Yeah,
I should have you talk more about your team. Who else does what else all at Montana Pest Solutions?
Well, so we have guys that aren't necessarily just relegated to doing mice and insect, but we have a couple of guys that that's just seems to be the bulk of what they do. They take care of all the regular residential and commercial customers. We have a couple of significant commercial customers that we take care of, and we of course want to give them the best possible treatment, and that's kind of has been the background of our success and our growth as a company. Is we don't just relegate ourselves to residential. We'll pretty much take on anything, and we rebranded ourselves this year, and we came up with the term solutions in our name, because that's really what we are. We're pest problem solvers. So whatever the problem is, I had one guy talking to me yesterday. I think he was bored. We were on the trip home from working up in the Condon area, and he said, we should get a snowblower. I could do snow blowing in between jobs, this winter. And I was like, okay. And he says, having to shovel snow can be kind of a pest. And I went, okay, I like how you look at that. So yeah, we're whatever he wants to do.
Maybe a little out of the wheelhouse, but let's put a pin in that one.
I like how he thinks. He doesn't want to be idle, so that's a good thing.
I like that ambition. What is it about a professional treatment that helps ensure the problem's being attacked rather than, just going down to the old hardware store and grabbing a few cans of spray?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've often said that we're in the business of doing this for people that don't want to do it themselves. But I have a boat slip up on Flathead Lake that I've had for a couple of years. And I was talking to my neighbor, because when you have a boat that's on a boat slip, you get a lot of spiders. Those spiders figure out that the bugs like to hang out over the water, and they crawl all over everything. And I had a fella tell me that he was spraying his boat with an over-the-counter product. And by law, you can't do that. So that kind of concerns me when I hear about do-it-yourself people that are maybe not reading the label of the product they're using. So I really want to advise that if you're going to do it yourself, please read the label of the product you're doing. You don't want to spray over bodies of water and things like that. But the point being is, in the professional realm, we're trained, we're licensed, we're insured, and that means that we're going to make the right application at the right time for the right pest challenge, whatever that may be. And we're not just throwing out a blanket treatment, and we're not overspraying, and we're not underspraying, and we're not leaving people to frustration with their pest problems. So that's what you get when you hire a professional pest control person, is somebody who's got the licensing, the background, the training, and the understanding of how to do it the right way.
What do you like about the technology in treatments in your industry that you have access to now that maybe you did not have a few years back?
Yeah, so it's been amazing. I've been at this for 13 years, and one of my best examples is 10 years ago, the Yellow Jackets. We just had a heck of a time trying to deal with Yellow Jackets, and I was following a lot of different people in our associations and what are they doing. And then we had a company that came out with a product and said, you really should try this. And so we tried it, and we had incredibly good success with that. And of course, I kind of consider it a trade secret. I'm not going to share with anybody what I'm using for wasp control, but what we use works really well.
Yeah.
So that the chemical engineering that they've come out with just in the last decade is amazing. I mean, we don't use stuff that harms people. I mean, the number one question we get is safe for my kids and for my pets? And we want to be able to tell them, yes, what we're using is, we're still using a pesticide. But it's built to deal with the insects. It's not built to deal with you as a mammal or a human or your pets that are mammals. So that chemical engineering is so specific and so succinct to dealing with the insect issue that we're applying it to, that it makes it much more safe for those of us that are concerned about the environment and our own health.
Yeah, hand in hand with that, with respect to the environment, homeowners, pets, their health concerns, and I'm sure you're getting a lot more inquiries along those lines. A lot of different options you can offer depending on what the customer's problems are.
Yeah, well, and we are always going to customize the treatment to what the issue is. We practice what's called integrated pest management. That, in other words, we're going to integrate our solution to your specific problem. And your problem can be unique based on the type of construction of your home. We have to approach a log home way differently than we do a standard stick-built home. An older home can have a lot more cracks and holes in it than a newer home can have. However, I will tell you that newer homes also create problems. We got a call early this spring from a very frustrated person, had just bought a brand new house up on the top of Miller Creek, and they had pigeons roosting on their new fancy architecture in front of their house and pooping all over everything, and they were not happy about that. So we were able to take a look at it, find a real simple solution to keep the pigeons from flying away. That actually didn't involve bird netting, as a matter of fact. We used some other methodology, and now they don't have birds pooping all over the front of their house.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck and Becky Peterson, the Beck and Beck team at Windermere Real Estate here on News Talk KGVO. And my guest is Nate Nunnally, owner of Montana Pest Solutions. And also a big thank you to a couple of Diane and Becky's marketing partners that also help provide the show to you every weekend. Miles Link at Opportunity Bank of Montana, Rob Fleming with Man Mortgage. Back to Nate Nunnally, Montana Pest Solutions. Take us through a typical call, Nate. A customer tells you what the problem is. What do you need to do prior to using any application to make sure it's the right treatment for their problem?
Well, we're going to assess the situation. Did they see ants or did they see an ant? That's a really good example. Is, oh my gosh, I've got ants, and we come in and they'll say, well, I saw one right here on the kitchen counter. It was about 10 days ago. Okay, well, have you seen anything lately? Well, no, it was just that one ant. Well, we're probably not going to go full on, frontal attack for an ant problem there. We're probably going to do more of a broad spectrum general insect treatment and just try to keep any ants from showing up. But on the flip side, they can show us a string of ants, and they might have what we call frass. That would be the chewings or the waste products of carpenter ants. Well, that's definitely something we want to take very seriously, because carpenter ants can create structural damage to a house. I've seen incredible things that carpenter ants can do. Ants, first of all, are the most prolific insect in the world. There's thousands of different species of ants, but in Montana, we're relegated to only a handful, and one of the most prolific is carpenter ants. But the amazing thing is, in my realm, I love doing carpenter ant treatment because we're very effective in what we do when we treat them.
Are they readily identifiable just by looking at them?
So they are, for the main reason that they're much larger than a normal ant.
Okay, sure.
So some of the workers can get up to 3/4 of an inch long. They'll certainly be a half inch long. Large black, or they'll be a deep dark coffee brown, and you just definitely know they're a carpenter ant.
Okay, all right. My favorite question, and yours too, when we get together. There's something really creepy about bed bugs because they can be present even in very sanitary conditions. Is that something you are called upon to service regularly, and what is their behavior, and what are the ways we can help prevent them in the first place? I guess that was a lot of questions in one there.
Yeah, but let's just talk about bed bugs on the general sense. Bed bugs are not relegated to people who are not living in a clean environment. They can happen to anybody. Bed bugs are really the world's greatest hitchhikers, because that's kind of what they do. So if you're a traveler and you've been somewhere to visit, whether it's in a hotel or a friend's house in another state, in another city, or anything like that, and they happen to have a slight bed bug challenge where they're at, you can end up with a hitchhiker in your suitcase or whatever, and you bring them home. We've had transfer occur just by people spending the night with each other. The kids come over to have a sleepover, things like that. We've had bed bugs spread that way. Bed bugs, the only time you have a problem with them is if you ignore the problem. And, unfortunately, we do see people that have economic challenges. They're afraid of what it's going to take to eradicate them. And part of the cost concerns, unfortunately, is I think the industry as a whole has taken advantage of people where they want to charge thousands of dollars for heat treatments and things that we've found to be unnecessary about 95% of the time. 95% of the time, we're going to offer up some solutions and how they prepare their homes for us to deal with the bed bugs. We're going to do 1 to 2 treatments. We're going to do a single treatment, and generally with a follow-up, we've eradicated the problem. Heat does kill bed bugs. Vacuuming, cleaning is all good ways to go. Calling us up to do an inspection, we might charge you a little bit to come and do that inspection because we're going to basically flip your house over. We're going to flip the beds over in the nightstands and the dressers, and we want to look at all the cracks and crevices to see if you actually have bed bugs. I will tell you a huge portion of the bed bug calls that we go on is just because people think they may have been exposed and they're concerned, and we'll go and do a thorough inspection. We don't find evidence of any bed bugs at all, so it's not a concern. But if we do, we take a realistic approach to doing our pesticide treatments for bed bugs, and we use very specific products to get that done that, again, are going to be least toxic and leave you with the least amount of exposure to any issues, and generally can cure it in a single treatment. A little bit of advice for people out there: if you do travel, don't set your suitcase down at the head of your bed. Our best recommendation is use the little metal suitcase rack to set your suitcase on, or set it on the dresser that's off the foot of the bed. Bed bugs will really tend to congregate, especially in a hotel room or any bed bug infestation, around the head or the headboard of where you sleep. And the reason is because that's where you're exposed the most when you're sleeping. Bed bugs won't generally chew on you or bite you or suck your blood, because that's what they do, until you're still and asleep. So they wait till you're in a good deep sleep. They find you by your body heat and by your exhalation, the carbon dioxide that we exhale, and that cues them to come looking for you. And so that, little critters, they just talking about it, I know some of you are itching right now. But the crazy thing is, I always like to give this disclaimer, is to date, bed bugs have not been found to be any kind of vectors of any bloodborne pathogens out there, unlike a mosquito. Now, a mosquito will land on us when we're outside in the barbecue in the Montana summers, and we'll just smack it and flick it off of us and not really think about it again. But mosquitoes carry all kinds of wicked diseases, and of course you hear about that on the news. But bed bugs don't have that. But there's just something in our human psyche when we think about a bed bug crawling on us in our sleep that just really bothers us.
Yeah, it's the whole sinister, sneaky factor. I think of that whole thing. But that is awesome advice, especially in reference to, we're not dissing hotel rooms here, but it's going to happen. But in reference to those, all of that is just great advice. Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck and Becky Peterson, the Beck and Beck team at Windermere Real Estate here on News Talk KGVO. And my guest, Nate Nunnally, owner of Montana Pest Solutions. There are a number of common sense things, Nate, that we can do around the house that most of us don't usually do to help prevent infestations.
Well, amazingly enough, with a lot of the bat calls, even, we'll find that people are sleeping with their doors or their windows open. We had a person this summer who was complaining about wasps getting into the home. And we found out that they were leaving the door open for their dog to go in and out at night. And it's like, you need to keep your doors closed. You need to keep your screens repaired and in place.
Sure.
Those are the ways that we keep the insects out of our house. So those are some of the more common sense approaches. If you're, a lot of times when we go to a house that's got a mouse problem, one of the first things we'll look at is the base of the garage door, if it's an attached garage. The seals that are on the bottom of garage doors can go bad, and we'll help you with those solutions. If we don't fix it for you ourselves, I've got a great recommendation for a fella that's in a business referral group with me who will come and make those repairs for you, and he's very knowledgeable. He's been at it a long time. So little things like that, you know, exclusion is always the kind of the key word, and people are like, what do you mean exclusion? Well, we're trying to exclude the pets from getting into our house, just like we want to exclude bears from coming in our house, so we close the door at night. So the closing your doors and your windows, keeping your screens in place, those are all exclusionary measures. If you have holes or other openings that are in your home, very often, like when we have a mouse infestation, one of the first places we'll look is where the air conditioning lines come into the home. And for some reason, sometimes those lines are going through a hole that does not have any sealant around it. So we have to seal those up, and the mice will get through there. Mouse can get through a hole the size of the end of your finger.
I know. I was just going to bring that up. That's the other thing that probably amazes a lot of customers. What do you mean? They got through that little teeny tiny opening?
Yeah.
What are in terms of training certification, staying up to date, all those things. What does your Montana Pest Solutions team routinely do to stay as effective as you possibly can?
Well, so first of all, we do weekly training. We have a weekly staff meeting, and we discuss different challenges that we've seen out there. A lot of times, we'll pick a person to present on a specific subject. One week we might talk about flies, the next week about roaches or ants or whatever. Our wildlife guys will present on the observations they've made and teach some of the guys that aren't so versed in the wildlife realm to keep their eyes open while they're doing regular service for their customers out there. It's like, oh, you might have a bird problem here. And we get they refer each other, the wildlife guys, if they see an insect problem that they're not used to dealing with, they'll give that to the insect guys and vice versa.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
But we affiliate ourselves with the several different national affiliations. We keep our ears real close to our suppliers, who are a great source of information for us. We're members of the National Wildlife Control Operators Association. That's for the wildlife end of things, and they do phenomenal training on all aspects of doing wildlife control out there. The National Pest Management Association, I've been a member of for, I think, over 10 years, and they really help strengthen our end game. We have the Montana, it's called AMTOP, and I can't remember what that all stands for, but it's the Montana State Association, and we're a member of that as well. So, keeping in touch with everybody.
Yeah, wow. Any really strange service call come to mind with Montana Pest Solutions?
Oh, what we might see as routine might seem strange to some people, but
for sure, yeah.
Yeah, raccoons under porches. We have a nest of raccoons up on the north side of town, in an abandoned kind of house, abandoned piece of property. Nobody's living there, and we had a garage that's literally, if you open the door, and an old garage, more like a shed, not a garage, but you open the door and it was just floor to ceiling stuffed with stuff. And we ended up trapping, last count I knew was 6 raccoons out of there, which I think turned out to be a mother and most of her young with her. But those raccoons were known all over the neighborhood because they would go into the next door neighbor. She had young children, and she would catch the raccoons in the yard playing with her kids' toys. And that just really bothered her, and she didn't want her kids going out there and getting bit or anything like that. Yeah. So we had to remove those guys. So that was one of the more interesting calls we've had this year.
And I always like to ask about success stories, something that was a real challenge that left the customer, of course, extremely satisfied, and you at Montana Pest Solutions extremely satisfied.
Well, this is a gratifying business for that very reason, because people, they're concerned, they're worried, they're scared sometimes of the issues that come on, whether it's a wildlife issue or an insect issue or whatever. And we're able to go in there and find the problem and abate it for them, and that just makes them very happy, very relieved. So we get lots of good referrals, and we're always very thankful for that. But like our netting job, what we did on this job was we went in and did a small portion of the job, so the customer could see what it looked like and see how effective it was at holding the birds out. Yeah. And we rolled up actually Monday to do an inspection with him and make sure he was happy with us. And he looked at us and said, "So how do we get started on the rest of this? I want to get the whole thing done." I was like, awesome. "Oh, okay. I guess they're happy with our work." So, that's very satisfying. People that get bats in their home, and bats make me nervous because bats can be, rabies carriers. So can raccoons, skunks, and a lot of animals out there. You just have to be careful with that. We don't want people getting bit, but we will have people say, "I had a bat in my house and I caught him and I threw him out." And it's like, man, I hope you used gloves. I hope you protected yourself, but you don't want to get bit. So if we can come in and find that solution and help somebody avoid ever getting sick from rabies or any other diseases that can be carried by those animals, then we've done our job.
My guest this week on Missoula Real Estate Today has been Nate Nunnally, owner of Montana Pest Solutions, and great job as always. If somebody would like to find out more about Montana Pest Solutions, what's the best way to go about that?
You can simply call us at 406 I have to think about our phone number because I don't call it ever.
No.
830-8752. Or, of course, just Google us. Look us up on the internet. We're www.montanapestsolutions.com, and that's all spelled out.
Yeah.
We just couldn't find any way to do it shorter, so it's just spell it out, Montana Pest Solutions.
Nate Nunnally with Montana Pest Solutions, this week's guest on Missoula Real Estate Today. I appreciate you coming back. Great seeing you again.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you, Denny.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck and Becky Peterson, the Beck and Beck team at Windermere Real Estate. For current listings and services Beck and Beck provide, visit movetomissoula.com. That's Missoula.com. We'll see you next time on Missoula Real Estate Today.